So what's up, guys? This is Salamin. I have a little interesting topic that I want to talk about. So today, I've got this news going on. One of the articles is YouTube is finally getting sued, which is something that's actually happened in the past. But in this particular instant, it's kind of a new concept, right? Because previous lawsuits that have come up against YouTube and Google have been more or less for discrimination. Like, I remember one that came from like the makeup or LGBT community here on YouTube that accused YouTube of basically silencing their content and being discriminatory against them in the direct chats that they had in like the Google support chats, and the things like the that put for a situation like this is much more important. And it actually kind of seemed to follow a theme that's been recently kind of happening, where people have been kind of standing up to these big technology companies. People have finally been kind of having enough. People have been finally standing up to the corporate monopolies that realistically dominate the internet in very way and maintain almost entire control over what you do online. So before we even get any further, I just wanted to go ahead and let you guys know this, right? Google, YouTube, they're the same company. Amazon, Facebook, Twitter, Apple, Microsoft, Amazon. These few companies essentially can determine everything you do online. I mean, at some degree, they can influence your entire online life. And if you become an enemy of these massive tech companies, which in all reality, like, they communicate with one another and they operate together when it comes down to what they're censoring and what they're doing and what they're cutting out of the pie and stuff like that, you're gonna have a pretty horrible time, right? Because, like, can you name many websites or like services that they don't own or affect in some way rights, and getting it to the point where companies are refusing to work with people simply because Google and Microsoft and them won't work with them? So there has been a lot of concerns about the potential for censorship and whatnot with these companies. But YouTube is actually getting sued for something monopolization. As a matter of fact, this is all coming from a small video sharing platform based out of Canada called Rumble, which I've never heard of before. This is the first time that I'm hearing of Rumble, which from my research online as it's a direct rival to YouTube that has apparently become pretty popular online with more conservative and right-leaning people, the usuals, who say that they're being censored by the established social media and technology platforms like Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, things like that, right? So in a way, Rumble appears to be like an all-tech company, kind of like, your Gap or your Parler that has popped up to compete with YouTube. Now, there are, of course, other YouTube competitors. You got your Vimos or out there. You got your Storyfires out there. So I'm not necessarily sure of how popular Rumble necessarily is, or like what the content's like on there. I've never been on there. I haven't heard of it before. But their lawsuit indicates that they're accusing Google and other major tech companies as well of basically running antitrust-facing companies that are running monopolies that stifle competition, that refuse to allow the little man to prosper, and even stifle smaller conservative-friendly rivals, okay? And they even accuse them directly of, quote, willfully and unlawfully creating and maintaining a monopoly in the online video sharing platform market. The video sharing site also accused Google and YouTube of, quote, unfairly rigging the search algorithm to favor YouTube videos in search results, which is yet another accusation that's been slung against Google in a series of antitrust claims that have been made. If you didn't know, Google and all these other companies have already basically been testifying before the Senate and everything, because they're basically being looked into as monopolies. They have been for months, and they're finally being addressed into these issues. But Rumble, which is based in Toronto, filed a lawsuit over in California on Monday, claiming that Google had unfairly cost its viewers and advertising revenue because of how Google was manipulating their search algorithms and its pre-installation of the YouTube app on Android devices. So Google, through Android devices, has made it to where Google and YouTube are pre-installed applications, meaning that, if someone buys an Android phone, they have no reason to guess venture out into the video sharing market. They already have YouTube on their phone. They already have a search engine as established as Google on their phone. They have no reason to try to go to competitors. And if there are small competitors out there, they're trying to innovate and do things differently and compete. Well, they can't do anything against that because Google is going to outspend them. In every way, they're going to manipulate the search algorithms. Things like that is the accusations that are being made. They were quoted as saying Google, through its search engine, was able to wrongfully divert massive amounts of traffic to YouTube, depriving Rumble of its additional traffic users' uploads, brand awareness, and revenue it would have otherwise received. Now, like I had said, Google has faced a string of monopolization accusation, I guess, and antitrust actions because of what has been called search dominance over the last few years. They've drawn attention from the US authorities and government, the European Union, and even market competitors. But with this website, okay, there is something different because you got, like I said, you got your Vimos and Storyfires, which are, I would say, probably a little bit more established, maybe than Rumble. As a content creator myself, I've heard of these platforms. I've used these platforms. I've never even heard of Rumble before. Okay, and maybe Rumble has a point, and the reason I haven't heard of them is because YouTube maybe is influencing this. Okay, but that's beside the point. Okay, so like I said, Rumble has become popular with the right-wing conservative Republicans over the last year or so. Okay, the tech has been exploding, and alternatively, the tech has been exploding, and Rumble is kind of riding that wave. It's been apparently endorsed by Republican Representative Vin Nunes and the company boasts more than 2 million creators using the site, which is honestly quite an impressive feat. And obviously, we've seen in the news recently, right-wingers have kind of taken more of a stand, I guess, against big tech, especially with banning of Donald Trump and other conservative figures from applications like Twitter, Facebook. The right has begun to accuse these big tech companies of censoring people on the conservative side of the political aisle, of accusing right-leaning ideals of being, horrible and censoring them. Companies like Facebook, Google, Apple, Amazon, Microsoft have all been accused of doing these kinds of things. And that's obviously been really intensified recently by all of these platforms, kind of like teaming up together to block Parler, which was a right-wing social messaging platform that was exploding in popularity. I mean, it was the top of the free apps on the App Store and everything before it was taken down. And once again, you'll notice how all of these companies, they did these things. An illusion of, okay, I wasn't like one company did it and then weeks later another company did it. And the dominoes fell like that, much like when Alex Jones' podcast was basically banned from the internet, who's also a right-wing conservative media figure, okay? They did this all in unusual. These companies all did that together. It seemed like the moment that one company announced it, they all announced it, okay? And they did it for the same reason. Okay, quote unquote, we don't want these apps to incite violence. We don't want the people on there to incite violence. Now, keep in mind, these are not my words. I'm quoting what's being said by the media, what's being said elsewhere, okay? You guys are gonna have to realize that at some point here, I'm telling you what's going on. From other people, I'm reporting on this, but when you take a look at this list of the most watched videos right now on Rumble. Apparently, this includes a conservative political commentator, Dan Bongino, if I said that right, the Fox News host Sean Hannity, and the conservative YouTuber Diamond and Silk. Now, over on Twitter, the CEO Chris Belvalisky will regularly post updates about right-wing figures joining the platform, kind of congratulating them and, hyping the platform up even more, kind of using them, joining those right-wing figures, kind of getting on there as maybe more of a way to expose platform to an audience on Twitter. That with the right-wing stuff going on is looking for alternative tech to go to for what they call safety of freedom of speech and things like that. Now, Rumble is alleging that Google has willfully and unlawfully created and maintained a monopoly in the online video sharing platform market in at least two ways. Now, they gave two options. Here first, by manipulating the algorithms by which they search for video results are listed, Google ensures that videos on YouTube are listed first, obviously. Google owns YouTube, so it would be beneficial for them to do so, and then list those of competitors way down the list, maybe in the other pages of the results. And second, by pre-installation of the YouTube app as the default online video sharing app on Google smartphones, and by entering into an anti-competitive illegal trying agreements with other smartphone manufacturers to do the same. As of right now, it appears that Rumble's complaint is seeking damage of at least $2 billion. Whoa, guys, like, this is a big amount of money, even for any small company, startup company to get, but I think they might actually get it. Nevertheless, let's get back to it. So let's get to this, and this all coming actually after Parler decided that they were going to sue Amazon. If you didn't know, Amazon actually decided that they were going to basically take Parler offline because Amazon has their OWS, Amazon Web Services, that they use to host websites. And it's actually hosting a sizable portion of the internet, like a lot of websites run through Amazon services, and Parler was one of these websites that was doing so. Of course, one of these alternative tech websites that people on the right were using, and of course was claimed to be inciting violence and was taken off Amazon servers, and basically has since been shuttered by pretty much everybody that had anything to do with in terms of business. Now, Parler also argued that their suit that Amazon was behaving anti-competitively. Okay, and Parler's lawsuit indicated that sites and apps that were banned or penalized by the tech giants over violent speech were willing to use the emerging antitrust thing in court. Because, I mean, this has been an issue that's been developing for a while. I've been covering this for a long time. Well, not a long time. I was actually just looking on things, but I've never covered it. The Senate committee hearings have been going on for a long time, where they getting these CEOs up on the stand in front of these, honestly, let's be honest here, keep it $1.50. These old folks in Washington that know nothing about the internet, know nothing about these companies, or they're having a field day with them because they're facing no real issues with the people in politics, okay? And they're growing at such a rate that they're making so much money and getting new users at such a rate that they are impossible to stop, okay? There's no competition to these companies. I mean, let's be real. There is no competition to YouTube. Vimeo is not competition to YouTube. There is no other video platform that has billions of acting viewers every single month that's doing what YouTube's doing. It just isn't happening, okay? So when you do see something like this, it's very easy to make that claim, and it's very easy to understand where they're coming from. So we're seeing in this situation here, people are finally starting to make a stand against big tech companies, okay? And I think regardless of your political beliefs, one thing we should all be able to come together and agree on here is that these companies have way too much power. I mean, really way too much power. And they have way too much influence over the average life, okay? So the fact that you can become an enemy to a couple of these companies and no longer be able to use the internet is absolutely insane. I mean, I think that's something that people need to consider more sure maybe in this instance. You can try politically justify it, okay. If you're on the left, you can say, oh yeah, they got the people on the right, you know, because they were inciting violence or whatever. You can do that all you want, but there's going to come a day where this kind of situation is no longer going to be political, okay? And they're just going to start silencing people who they do not like or they don't match their idea based on other things. It's going to happen, okay? And it's going to get to a point then where they're more powerful than they are now. If something is not done, is the right thing to do, maybe this lawsuit, I'm not necessarily sure, but maybe it will scare some sense into Google. I really doubt it's probably going to be like a flea on a cat. You know, they're just going to knock that thing off and it's not going to be a big deal. But with that being said, thank you guys for watching. If you did enjoy, make sure you to leave a like, subscribe. If you're brand new around here on the channel, follow me over on Twitter and Twitch. And subscribe to Salameen. Make sure to check out the links down below. Thank you to my channel members. Your support helps my channel tremendously. And until my next video, guys, this is Salameen. We're watching this lawsuit unfold and signing out to you.